What's up, ninjas? It's PWAR. Science class is back, and oh boy, we break in the game. While the demo is still available for Wulong, I wanted to dive deeper into the RPG side of the game in relation to builds. You know, how good are stats really, how good are the spells and weapons in Wulong, what's potentially the best build to start, etc. If Team Ninja's gonna keep the loot in, I'm keeping the builds in, and I found some cool stuff that you are definitely gonna want to know come release. So if you enjoyed the video, tickle that like button and subscribe for more content. If you want to see my full impressions of the game, check out my demo review. So, I guess we'll cover stats first, since they're way weirder than other games, being based around the 5 virtues, elements of nature: fire, water, wood, earth, and metal. Each stat increases 2 stats on you at once. However, seemingly there is no attack increasing stat. There's spirit defense and HP, but nothing offensive here that would give damage. But weapons do scale off your stats, as seen here. So for offense, they will still be important, similar to Nioh. Weapons usually have 3 scaling stats, so you want to base your stats around said weapon, or vice versa. Another thing to keep in mind is while increasing an element, say fire, does increase your affinity to fire, your fire spells will be stronger, weapon scaling stronger, etc. But your elemental resistance to water goes down. So every element has a positive and a negative. So while you may max out fire for a flame build, if you get hit by a water attack, it gon' hurt. So it's not clear what the best approach is giving the stats just yet, but a balanced build is not a bad idea if you want to be more defensive. If you want to parry often, then water and earth are the go-tos. Otherwise, I think a combination of metal, fire, and wood are the best routes. Wood is perhaps the best sub-element to invest in, as you get HP, and when you get hit, you lose less of your spirit. Fire gains spirit faster, and metal makes your wizardry spells cheaper. Of course, spells are a factor in which element you invest in too, but from the demo, none of the offensive spells were honestly that good outside of 1 or 2. The beginning fireball is pretty broken. It's cheap. It's quick to cast, and for some reason compared to everything else, it applies fire elements super fast, usually burning the target in 2 hits, whereas the other element cheap equivalents take like 3 to 5 casts to proc. So since you are able to choose at the very beginning of the demo which spells you want, at the shrine, definitely swap this in for the demo even if you're not fire. It is crazy. And when an enemy is burned or gets any element, they do a stun animation allowing you to get more free hits in. If they do balance the fire spell, I hope to make the other offensive spells stronger. It is a demo still, so we'll see how all things scale in the end. But of course, where the true OP stuff comes in is buffs. There's a fire spell called Overpower Burst that's similar to Royal Knight's Resolve from Elden Ring, buffing your next attack or spell. And as you saw earlier, right now, after getting a critical from the bird, the charge thrust skill from the sword or a glaive dealt huge damage, over 600 versus the normal 40ish it did. So it's about a 40 to 50% damage increase for one single use. And you can preemptively cast it, which means you have enough time to do whatever you want. The water blink spell was also great, sorta like Bloodhound Step or the feral yokai form dodge in Nioh 2. It's cheap to cast and iframes through anything, including burst attacks, so long as it isn't a long string where you get hit by the follow-up. But it is kind of too fast and not as smooth as the yokai dodge, so I hope they adjust the animation a bit. The weapon buff skills with elements were pretty garbage, to be honest. They lasted too short, and against humans that can block, it was sometimes hard to apply the element. But the most broken combo I tried was the earth defense spell and the leech buff from wood that gives you life on hit. You could even throw in the roar from earth that reduces damage as well, but casting all those kind of drains all your spirit bar. But the earth spell effectively gives you hyper armor against most attacks. So with this, I was able to completely ignore the tiger's multi-claw attack and just kept attacking during its attack, not lose any spirit, but deal damage and heal over time and destroy them. So aside from metal, the other elements have great buffs that you want in your future builds, especially earth. As far as weapons, to be honest, because the only way to actually build spirit is from normal attacks so far, it kinda makes the spirit attacks and skills not so hot, outside of the big charge up ones like on sword or glaive. Otherwise, you're just going to be spamming the square button over and over. Though I suppose the backflip ones are okay too, to reset your position better after a flurry of attacks. But yeah, I wasn't too impressed with most of them, at least so far. They look cool, but you can only sprinkle so many in before you're out of gas. The range weapons are even more disappointing. There's no longer the headshot mechanic from Nioh, so while you still do more damage from headshots, you lose that free critical on them afterwards. And the damage was kind of pathetic otherwise. Throwing knives are now a weapon type, but you have to manually aim to use them, which is very strange and dumb in my opinion. I don't like the shift to an over-shoulder perspective as a game design, so hopefully they change that. And maybe we'll have a Storm Kunai equivalent, but a ninja build doesn't seem so hot in this game compared to Nioh. But I don't think I saw any throwing knife scaling modifiers yet, so we'll see. Something I did notice about the gear is that there are set places for gear. Maybe it was strictly for the demo, but if not, since they didn't do it for Nioh demos and maps do have set places for things such as a 4-star weapon, that could be exactly what these games needed. Example, by the Crow's Nest on a new playthrough, you always get the 4-star halberd, and by this spot around here, you always get the 4-star dual blades. Of course, there are still RNG drops. I've had the bird boss drop some gear on occasion, but yeah, interesting if they did include set drops, just to ensure the player is well equipped for the content and not luck affecting their progress. Although, my second pair of 2 cats from that spot did have different skills and stats. The basic power level was the same, but the other stats change. And lastly, before some tips, Guardian Spirits. They're all pretty good. Lots of good stat effects on each spirit for certain playstyles, whether offensive, deflecting, guarding, or otherwise. But the most broken one by far is the Dragon. It has a damage buff whenever you do a counter-attack deflect, which is the R1 plus circle deflect that switches weapons, and the buff is pretty significant with my attack jumping from 79 to 111. But even more broken than that, however, is the spirit itself. When fully charged, hitting the triangle per circle when it wants to work summons your spirit, and the dragon casts a simple AoE heal over time. Except that thing heals you to full every tick, and it also affects allies. With the earth defense spell giving you hyper armor, you can literally just smash attack without worrying about dying at all, making the demo boss a complete joke. So Dragon, number 1. None of the others were too amazing as far as spirit attacks go, but the Earth one I would say is the second best spirit. Its attack raises stones from the ground, and enemies in contact with it will lower their spirit a lot as well as damage them. But more importantly is its substat gives guard consumption reduction, which leads into the best tip you can learn from the demo, and potentially the game, if nothing changes. So here it is. Forget parry, blocking is OP. Blocking is way better than parry, especially with the Earth Spirit. When you block, you lose spirit, but in the demo, you barely lose spirit on block, even being able to block full chain attacks if you start at midpoint at the gauge, even against the final boss. And a single light attack or parry raises your bar just enough to repeat the same thing over again. You block all the attacks, you hit or parry during an opening, and repeat. Since the parry frames are inconsistent or too small right now, instead of treating this like Sekiro, go back to old reliable blocking. And you can look for further stats to increase that blocking potential on your armor as well. And if you hold block, then parry while still holding block, if you parry too late, you will simply block the hit. If you parry too early and miss the parry, you'll still get hit, but blocking first at least reduces the amount of missed parries you do and blocks them instead, which makes the game so much easier. Also, guarding while moving lets you sneak up on people easier rather than trying to slow walk with a thumbstick, so do that for sneak attacks too. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed a more in-depth look at some of the RPG mechanics. Again, Greener Earth Spirit, Fire Buff spell, Earth Defense spell, and Shout, and the Vitality Drain spell are GOAT, as well as the Aqua Blink. I'll probably make a wood or fire hybrid build come release, we'll see. But if you do enjoy the video, smash like, let me know your favorite spirit, spells, weapon, and build you plan to make based off the demo. And if you want the best Wulong videos around, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more Wulong epicness. My voice is giving out, dude.